Could you tell us a little bit about your area and its relationship to applied linguistics?
Yeah, my work is about children's language and literacy development. So I'm particularly interested in how children's knowledge of language and understanding of language plays into how they acquire written language and how they read and spell as they get older. And we know that it plays a really important role, particularly for children with difficulties. Often they have difficulties in different aspects of spoken language that cause those difficulties in written language. And so for that reason, what a lot of my work does is to try and get into some of the details about the nature of those linguistic difficulties that the children have. And that's how it links up to applied linguistics, I think.
It'd be really interesting to hear a bit about the topic that you've chosen for this conference and maybe some of the recent findings that you've been working on.
Okay, so the topic that I talked about for this conference was morphology, and morphology is about the units of meaning within words. So for example, the word cats has one morpheme, which is the word cat, and then a s sound, which is a plural morpheme, which goes at the end to indicate there's more than one cat. So cats is quite a simple word. You can get more complex words like, for example, globalization, which is made up of lots of morphemes, and so each of the different parts of the word carry meaning. So there's two really useful things about knowing about morphology. One is that it can help you with vocabulary, because if you know what the parts of the word mean, you can have a good guess about what the word itself means. So if someone says, for example, ungoogleable, you know what each of those parts mean and you can put it together to work out what the word is. The second part is that in reading and spelling, we use morphology often to guide the particular spellings of words. So for example, the word health contains the morpheme heal, which is spelled H-E-A-L, even though it's pronounced more like H-E-L. And if children know about those kinds of relationships, it's likely that would be able to help them with their reading and their spelling. So what I talked about in this session today was some work about children's awareness of those relationships. So whether, for example, if you say to them, this man zibs, what is his job, then they would say zibber. And also whether they can use morphological information in spelling. So for example, if you ask them to spell hacks and you let them know that it's a two morpheme word, do they spell it with a KS rather than an X as you might use for a single morpheme word? And what we found was that the children with reading difficulties were much less likely to use morphology in their spelling. But it wasn't that they didn't know about morphology. They did have some sensitivity to it, but they didn't necessarily use that information to help their reading and spelling. So what I'm really interested in looking at is how we can help them learn to use that information in their reading and spelling.
Fabulous. Can you tell me a bit about future directions for your research? What do you want to do next?
What I'm trying to do at the moment is to make that research more applied and to look at how we can teach about morphemes and morphology in the classroom and how we can link that up to what children are learning about in their daily lives. So at the moment I'm working on a project looking at secondary school vocabulary, getting teachers to highlight what words they think are key for children to learn, and then giving the teachers information about the morphemes within those words to see if that can help them help the children to learn new vocabulary.
Have you got any advice that you'd give to early career researchers starting out in your area?
That's a really good question. I think it's getting more and more competitive for early career researchers, and the job market's getting more and more difficult. I think there's probably lots of advice around saying, for example, try and publish as early as you can. I think what I would say is try and make sure that you're open to new experiences. Try and read as much as you can go to conferences like this where you get a wide variety of different experiences and you can hear about how people do things in different areas. Go to the seminars and so on that are available in your department or nearby, and just try and get lots of different information, even if you feel like it's not necessarily directly relevant to your research. Just getting that knowledge of what different people do can be really useful, and it can help with opportunities in all sorts of areas, I think, as well.